All right. Number four in my Bones attempted win streak on Inscription. Winning a bunch in a row was really hard on this. And as I said, I started playing Bones and I immediately got this win streak and I was like, wait a second, can I win most runs now? And then I started playing a zero, and even though I think that might be the best deck, I cannot. So anyway, yeah, I've attempted to put together another win streak after this with the zero deck, and about 25 attempts in, I have not gotten a streak longer than two, and this streak is at three. And we'll see how the fourth run goes. So here, important to note, we see both item, we see campfire, but campfire is less important than item and altar. Altar means we can get rid of a card and augment a card before our first battle. Item means we can pick up a pack rat, which if we're interested in damage or various things, it can matter more with other decks. But usually, I think what you're looking for in the first tiles after the spot are either item or sacrificial altar, because those will somewhat impact your decisions. They're the most excuse me, they're the most likely to impact your decisions. So I think it's worth keeping an eye out for those. Okay, so we're in the Bones deck. If we were in the Zero deck, I would be so excited to see Wolf and Pronghorn here. I would take Wolf and Pronghorn, I would put Pronghorn on Wolf at the Sacrificial Altar, and that's just 6 damage in one card. That is an incredibly powerful effect. However, that is not the deck we're in. It still might be a good pick. That's just a very good card to have in our deck. Pronghorn onto a 3 damage thing is great. Pronghorn on the bull moose that moves around is significantly worse, because having 2 movement, it ends up moving either from slot 2 to slot 4 and then back to 2, or 1 to 3 and back, right? It's only going to rotate between 2 squares, and because its movement lets it switch places with things, that movement affects both its movements, so it will reliably move like that, I believe, no matter what's in between. The wolf, if you put it in column 2, it will move to column 3. If you block column 4, it will go back to column 2. So both of these can be set up to be a 1 turn 6 damage thing. But should there be like uncomfortably placed rocks or blockages, something where you can't immediately end the fight, where there's not a way to do so with trees or whatever, like if there's one for the enemy in column 1 and one for you in column 3, there's no way to do it 6 damage to end the fight immediately. You do want to be able to control its movement, and the 3/2 bull thing you cannot, and the wolf you can. So it's a very powerful combo, and it's probably still the right pick. Other cards worth considering. In some decks, you should consider Coyote, because it just doesn't get in the way of what you're doing. You don't have bones, but we already have a Coyote. This is not what we're interested in. The Wolf Cub is a perfectly okay card, but there are enough significantly better one drops that you almost never want the Wolf Cub. It's just like, oh, that card's pretty good. But the one drop slot is the thing. I only want to have one of them, and I want it to be busted, and the Wolf Cub is just not busted enough. Perfectly good card. Almost never you almost never want it. Corpse Maggots is the other, and Direwolf Pup are the other two interesting cards here. Corpse Maggots lets you take more expensive things, especially when we know there's an altar coming. And Direwolf Pup gives us a second way to do damage. But honestly, the main things we should be thinking about in the Bones deck are, one, how can I get a good one drop? How can I create my busted one drop? Nothing here helps us for that, right? Nothing is going to make our raccoon a busted one drop, and nothing here is going to be a busted one drop in itself. You could say Wolf Cub plus Pronghorn, maybe. That does 2 damage turn 1 and starts doing 6 damage turn 2, but it'll be probably the only card you can play on turn 1, and so you'll have to put it in slot 2 so it goes to column 3 so it can do it 6 fully next time, and maybe that's a dangerous tile to go to. It'll only have 1 defense. It's just not that reliable or powerful in effect. Again, Wolf Cub is not really the answer we want. Um, so we cannot solve our one drop issue. And the other thing we're doing is, how do we beat the bears? And we're probably going to need items for that. Nothing here is that useful for items, though being able to pick up the pack rat is useful for items. So if we don't have to use the sacrificial altar, that's good. But if the sacrificial altar gives us something great, that's worth doing. My point of all this is to say it probably just is the pronghorn and wolf, because our main goal is to figure out how to do 5 damage into a lane. So if we get an item that clears a lane, we can beat the Grizzlies. And Pronghorn plus Wolf does 3 damage into potentially 2 lanes, but into lanes that other things can attack directly. So Pronghorn plus Wolf, if our Coyote just hits the lane next to it, that's 5 damage. Damage that goes into lanes next to it makes it much easier to pile up 5 damage in a lane, because instead of just one card attacking its own lane in each lane, you can have 2 cards attack a lane. So I think Pronghorn plus Wolf just is the pick, and is the pick basically any deck you're doing. It's just a very strong combination. Good for me. I did it, and I immediately put that on. The one downside of this is we couldn't grab a Pack Rat, which would have been nice, but this is just such high impact. If we draw it in our opening hand, we can use a Squirrel and just win the fight immediately, but we're just very likely to be able to win the fight unless it has nowhere we can put it safely. It's just outputting so much damage each turn that it will dominate things into Act 3, basically. So this is a very good start. Should be very happy with this start. You'll notice I cleared my items. That means I looked ahead. There's no items on the right, and saw there were items coming up. Now, it is in fact possible that we got 7 bones, or 7 whatever it is, that we could go left here and get the skinning knife. But I'm going to assume we didn't. Odds are we didn't. And thus, we should be grabbing items here. We should be getting as many item refills as possible. Again, there's sort of 3 main goals. 1, be able to do 5 damage to a lane. We definitely have that now. Our Direwolf Pup can do 4, as long as we have the wolf, either the Direwolf Pup or the Coyote, or anything with 2 power we gets us there. Again, as long as that wolf is alive. And because the wolf does it in 2 different directions, it can be easier to set up. The wolf is great. We're really happy about the wolf. We have a very good situation. Now we need items. That's our top goal, because we got to get past Grizzlies to get anywhere. And then we want to get a good 1-drop. But we're very happy right now. This is a very good start. So we're definitely going right, then left here. One thing I like about that is if you look at the very top of the screen, you'll see that forces us to take the thing on the left. But the thing on the left is card choice, and card choice is usually one of the better of the card selection options. It's unlikely to force us into taking a 1-drop we don't want. I do prefer in general, like if we could pick which of the 2 top tiles to land on, we might have some preference for the one that will give us more choices of how to path further on. But right now, we're taking items. There's not much there to talk about. All right, what do we want here? Well, we certainly don't want Turkey Vulture. It's pretty rare that Turkey Vulture is the pick. I usually, so like Elk is probably a little more powerful than Ant Queen. Ant Queen is a 1/3. Most of the time you play Ant Queen, like the average situation in this deck, of course, is you sacrifice 2 things to get out a 1/3, and the next turn it becomes a 2/3 and turns a 1/2 into a 2/2 for 1. And this is some value. But is that better value than a 2/4 that just lands on the board now, does more that turn than the 1/3 does, and maybe can block up a few lanes? So, you can do some stuff using its movement to maybe get some edge out of it, though often the movement is just bad. So like, I think Elk is a little more impactful. The reason I tend to take Ant Queen is just because its ability is a little nicer. Just pop that on something else. It's not great. It's not like big appeal, but it gives you something else. And one other nice thing about it is sometimes boss fights, you sort of run out of cards. If you have been cutting cards, you've been seeing sacrificial altars, you've been keeping your deck thin, you often just end up drawing a bunch of squirrels with nothing to do against bosses, as you're sort of, or you need like an extra blocker against the Grizzlies. You can win in 1 lane, but your win is a little slow. Like your Direwolf can slowly beat up the lane it's in. Say if you powered it up a little bit, it can beat its own lane, but it needs you to have blockers in the other lanes. Ant Queen helps get you those blockers. Its ability is one you're happier to move to something else. I think you're usually taking Ant Queen here, but it is not the immediate value play. If you have other things you want to be doing with your sacrificial altars, if you do not need extra blockers at any point, I think the Elk is just a little more impactful. So I think Ant Queen's the pick, but I don't think it's... And I think it's the clear pick, and I think it's the pick most of the time, but I don't think it's like the lock pick. All right, so we're obviously going for items here. We got the tourney thing. That's fantastic. That slides everything over and that opens up a lane. Obviously, that's the pick. Mandatory pick. Now here, if we just had the Direwolf Pup and we had not gotten our big wolf setup, mandatory pliers, because pliers will be that 5th point of damage. However, I'm not sure that's the pick here. It's still nice to have the pliers because it means even if we don't have the wolf, we have a way to do 5 damage. Right now, we must have the wolf ready to land on the board or alive to do 5 damage. If we take the pliers, we have a second path to get there. That's pretty valuable. Also, because we have the tourney clock, we need the wolf to be on an exact tile. We need it to be in column 3 when we use the tourney clock, so it goes to column 2 and hits column 1, which will be the column that opens up. And that might require a bunch of specifics, and if we have a Direwolf Pup, maybe everything is easier. And so Pliers is nice for that. Boulder is nice if we need a while to set up getting our wolf out, and we can't put it on the board immediately because we'd win the fight too quickly before we're set up for the next phase, or it would be in the wrong column. Boulder will buy us time. There's value there. I'm actually thinking the pick might be Bones here, because getting to play Coyote free keeps us in some fights we might not be in otherwise. And again, Coyote plus Wolf is 5 damage. But I don't know. I think this is a really close decision between all 3. I think they're all defensible there. And it looks like we took the Pliers, which does give the most outs. So this makes some sense. Now, I see this card choice, and I'm going to scroll back up. I'm going to look at the map. This was the card choice on the left. So we're taking a campfire after this. Okay, that's really important to know, because if we had a sacrificial altar after this, we can take the Mantis and move its ability. However, we can probably take the Mantis anyway. We don't have a very good 1-drop. If we use the campfire on the Mantis, it probably either becomes good, or we get rid of it from our deck and we're ready for our next 1-drop. I don't think the Mealworm means a ton to us. If we sack the Mealworm into our Direwolf Pup, then the Direwolf Pup is a 2/7 when it evolves, which is a big difference over a 2/5, because a 2/5 dies in 1 hit to the Grizzlies because it has Annoying, and if you give it 2 extra toughness, it can survive a hit from the Grizzlies. But it's still not beating its lane unless it gets an attack upgrade. I think it's probably Mantis here. But I like taking a Mealworm. A Mealworm is a way to, is usually a way to be okay, my deck didn't get any worse, this is great. I'm trying to keep my deck thin into just really good cards and power those cards up. And the Mealworm is a card you're okay, it slightly lowers the density of powerful cards, but it's a cheap thing that lets me keep playing my powerful stuff, and maybe it improves them a little. This is a pleasant card to have in your deck. But I think we don't have a good 1-drop. Mantis is pretty good. Probably taking the Mantis. And we are trying to power it up. I'm not good at screenshotting such that it shows whether this is an attack or life upgrade. We're obviously much more interested in an attack upgrade. And I guess we just don't know whether I got it. Gold pick kind of sucks. The double wood carver is... we'll see if we get lucky. Now, we don't need to get lucky here. We're in a good spot. We have an item to beat the boss. We have a second item that gives us multiple ways for that to beat the boss. Our wolf is great. I assume all the fights to this point have been really easy, because if we draw the wolf, the fight is over. Another reason that keeping our deck thin is good is because we have more likely to get the wolf. We really don't want to get screwed by the gold pick giving us a crappy 1-drop with an ability, making it hard to get rid of. And it kind of sucks to get 2 wood carvers here when we could get an altar or a campfire, something that makes our deck clearly better instead of some chance to have it better. But this is a very good start. Okay, we got a cockroach. A goofy cockroach, but a cockroach. Obviously would be better without the ability, so we can move it. So the Mantis got +1, and I did not try for a second +1. So what I clearly evaluated was the Mantis at 2/1 is really good already, and I don't need to take the risk, and I want to be building around the Mantis. I'm going to get rid of Raccoon if I can. Okay, that seems legit. I think there's also a case for going a second time and seeing if you get a busted ends every fight in 1 turn Mantis, because the difference between 2/1 and 3/1 is pretty enormous. A 3/1 Mantis, if we get rid of Raccoon, is we basically have no danger again in a random fight. It's not entirely true. Again, trees and boulders can be in awkward places, but if we get a 3/1 Mantis, we are almost certainly only at risk during bosses. And our boss risk is fairly low if we can get items, so it just means route through items repeatedly, make sure we have enough items to beat Grizzlies, because we have cards that are really good for beating Grizzlies in our Wolf and Direwolf Pup. So I think there is a case for taking the risk on Mantis, and it sort of depends on what you think your win percentage is. If you think this deck is in good shape and I have a pretty good chance to win with a 2/1 Mantis, then you don't take the 50% to just lose it on the spot. But if you're not doing so well, getting that up to a 3/1 Mantis, as long as you do have some plan to beat bosses, is just huge impact. And so, yeah, I think there's a case both ways there. I'm not sure what I think. Yeah. It would obviously, if you're on a win streak, it sucks to lose a win streak because you took a big gamble and it didn't come off, but sometimes it's the best odds. And that's kind of how you're going to keep win streaks going, is you get the win streak happens because you're getting somewhat lucky. And the runs you find a way to give yourself a chance to win. And going for the 3/1 Mantis, I think there's a case for it. Okay, our first wood carver. So this is I think a pretty mandatory insect head. The Mantis is our planned build around 1-drop. If we can get a good ability on that, that's fantastic. So easy insect head. Yep. And oh, well, we got a great ability. All right, so this run is very likely to win now, and feels really good that we didn't risk the Mantis, because getting search means we can use the Mantis to get our wolf, and then it's very hard for there to be a fight we're in trouble in. Because we're landing 4 damage turn 1 and we're landing 6 at least turn 2. Yeah, so okay. Great situation. This was an incredibly generous double wood carver. Alright, so obviously you cannot take the ringworm here. The mealworm and the alpha are both defensible. I think a bunch of players are higher on alpha than I am. I like alpha. It's a nice effect. It's really good with our Direwolf Pup. It's also really good with our Wolf. Things that hit twice, it affects both hits. That's fantastic. Often I find the ability has to move to something before it's all that relevant. That, like, a lot of early fights, if you're set up well, like if our Mantis is going off, we win our fights really quick. This never lands. It never has a chance to land. We just don't have enough bones for it. The mealworm can land and is basically like a slightly better squirrel that's in our deck, and that's pretty nice a lot of the time. That's nice to have. And it can jump too, which aqua squirrels cannot. It's probably alpha. Alpha's bigger impact, but I think mealworm is quite close. All right, so we moved on to map 2. We've used our items, so this is definitely we go left for the cave and then right for the items. Yeah, because at this point, random fights are just not very dangerous to us, and Grizzlies are. We need items. And we used our turner thing and our pliers to beat the last one. All right, so moving forward, looks like I failed the trial horribly. I don't think I intended to fail the trial. I very rarely try to fail trials, and especially because we still really need to get rid of the raccoon. Actually, that means there is some case for going right to the campfire, because that gives us a 50% chance to get rid of the raccoon. But I think getting items is more important. But we could get screwed here. Like, if we draw the raccoon in our opening hand and nothing else, we could just lose a fight very easily. Okay, we fail the trial. That's a bummer. At items, Hourglass is huge safety to bad hands like that. Gives us an extra draw, gives us a chance to get something out and have it attack turn 1 and start healing. This is really good. One other thing I'd note, if we scroll back a bit and look at our most recent impact of our deck, if we have Ant Queen in our hand, we can now use Ant Queen to tutor Mantis or Wolf, whatever we need. So basically the way we're dead in an opening hand is if we get Raccoon, Coyote, and say Direwolf, or Raccoon, Coyote, Cockroach, because maybe we can't pay for that. Something like that, we could die. But we're pretty likely to get safe hands. But there's definitely risk here. We haven't locked it in. So scrolling back to the present. Easy Hourglass, and I think it's the squirrel. I think it's... No, it's probably the bones, actually. Because with that Cockroach and Coyote, the worst hands in our deck are because we can't play them. And especially because the Cockroach is an insect, and that means it can grab anything out of our deck with the Magpie ability. No, it's definitely bones. I better have taken bones. You can see it very faintly. I did take bones, good for me. So, okay, sometimes I screenshot because I think a board is really dangerous. So, if we Aqua Squirrel Raccoon here, we take 4 damage and we die unless it blocks. Yeah, we need to block here or deal damage. And so if we put, like, say, our raccoon in column 2, which is, like, the only natural play we have, then... So I think what we should do here is use the bones and raccoon and alpha... Or sorry, aqua squirrel and alpha into wolf and have the wolf finish this turn 1 in column 3. I think this is mandatory item use. I think this is a really scary board. Anything we put on the board dies immediately. Like if we block with raccoon or we block with alpha, then it's dying next turn. We're going to be at like 2 or 3 life. We have just lost one of the things we needed to use to sacrifice to get wolf out. Yeah, we should take the turn 1 win. So okay, I didn't show what I did. Apparently I used both my items. That's terrible. I must have just completely missed that I could use bones and sack twice into the wolf, because the wolf wins this turn 1. Ooh, I must have played really bad to have to use the hourglass here. I must have thought I have no way to survive turn 1. I need to pass to get the stuff to get it out, but I have the bones thing. I can get out alpha. Oh, that's a really bad mistake. What a waste of an hourglass. All right, at this point, I think I gotta go right. I gotta get a skinning knife. I need a way to take out grizzlies. Yeah, I think it's go right. Yeah, and no, I went left. Wow. This run has gone from, I think, really well played to I'm really suspicious of what I was doing. So obviously you cannot take the bullfrog here. Rat King and Adder. I would probably take Adder. It's a more useful ability to put on something. Adder, for instance, is very good on the Direwolf pup. It makes it a lot more likely that it can land on the board if it can just kill whatever's in front of it. It's much easier to find a lane as long as there's not something behind that, then it's safe. And also against Grizzlies, it means it can kill and do damage. Rather than both its hits to kill something. So even if you've like powered up your Direwolf, giving it Death Touch is really nice. So I think this is an adder, but I wouldn't hate the Rat King take. We do need bones. Our cockroach is almost really good, but kind of hard to play. Okay, I did take adder. When did we get rid of the that's what just happened. So if we go back to here, you can see we have the sacrificial altar. We have now gotten rid of the raccoon. We have moved the raccoon ability onto the coyote, the standard place we move it, because its abilities don't really hurt the coyote. The coyote already has annoying. So that's very standard move in this deck. And now we are guaranteed our Mantis turn 1, and our Mantis will draw whatever is needed, usually the wolf. So that's excellent. We're now in really good shape, but I do not like my last few decisions. Mandatory Wolverine. Cannot take another 1-drop. We need our Mantis first every game. If one of the Raccoon or Bullfrog was an insect, then we should take it. Because if we get our Mantis as our draw, that's great. If we get the other one, we can just turn it into the Mantis and then sacrifice it to the Mantis. And the reason it's good to have that in our deck is 1, it means we don't have to take a different card that we don't want. If we get an ability to put on it, that can make it even better. And 2, say we draw our Mantis and we just play our Mantis. Well, at some point we probably draw the other one, and it's just really good to have another cheap card that can pull anything we want out of our deck. So if we see cheap insects, we take them, but we do not see it here. Okay, these aren't the greatest items for us. I think, again, given that our cockroach can tutor, I think we're taking bones here over squirrel. And I do take bones. This is probably a black goat. Just getting out the wolf free is really nice. Yeah, I do take the black goat. Okay. And we're here, and we are forced into a double mycologist. Now, as I recall, does our deck have any duplicates in it? I don't think so, so that's probably going to force some new cards on us. But the first mycologist will give us a card that the second one we can then combine to make something good. So we're not going to get any additional cards from that. This is pretty good to see. Yeah. So we got a card selection. It didn't say what it was. This is the mycologist showing us cards. You can tell from all the mushrooms. And we have a choice of what we want to double up. And we're going to take the wolf here because a 6/4 wolf that hits both ways is fantastic. And now we can combine it. And we are into the boss, which here's our deck going in. Okay, so we took Mealworm at the card choice, which I didn't screenshot for some reason. Great pickup. Mealworm, as you may know, is an insect, which means that tutors, which is fantastic. We don't create bones that well. Like, we're not sacrificing much. We want to spend all our bones basically on the Mealworm and the Cockroach. We'd love to get rid of the Alpha and the Wolverine, move those abilities to somewhere else. These are just not cards we want to be drawing. But this is a thin deck and a very good deck, and we are guaranteed Mantis to tutor Wolf. And yeah, very good shape. Good deck. This is going well. We get the Angler. Why did I screenshot this? Probably because I was just proud of how good my Wolf was. Oh, this is a nice setup. And this is important. So this setup, very clearly, I did not get items, but with the adder. Oh, this makes the adder a really good pickup. I missed this time through, but I must have seen it during the game. Is the adder can clear a grizzly, and our wolf can hit the lane next to it. So adder plus our wolf setup now clears a lane. Now we did need the mycologist boost for that to fully pay off, but that is another reason for the adder to be the right pick. So going into phase 2, the adder will kill a grizzly, the wolf will attack the square next to it. But the other important thing here is you'll notice the wolf is in column 2. When you switch phases on a boss, movement abilities do not go off. So the wolf will stay in column 2. This is really important. If movement abilities did go off, then we actually wouldn't have a place to put the wolf on this board. Because if we put it on column 3, it would move to column 4, and we need it in column 2. But I guess we would have put the adder somewhere else. And the other important thing here is the adder must be to the left of the wolf because actions go left to right. So the adder needs to kill and then the wolf hit the lane for 6 rather than the wolf kills and then the adder hits the lane for 1, right? We need to do the 6. Okay. So you can see the setup going off here. Excellent. And without needing items, we beat the boss. Mandatory ringworm. It's an insect. Yeah. I really like the Bellringer Kraken. I think that's a very good card in general. But more tutoring is great. And we're into Act 3. Alright, so I clearly didn't screenshot, but I should have. We get to go to a cave, and we got double scissors from items? What? That's a fantastic start. Why did I not screenshot? Who knows? Alright, we already have double items. We got to go right here. We don't want to get saddled with a 1-drop. Also, if we do get unlucky and get a 1-drop going right, a campfire gives us a 50% chance to get rid of it. Definitely going right. We did not get unlucky. Got to be Pronghorn. We have seen the power on our wolf of the Pronghorn effect. I mean, elk is some impact, but it's Pronghorn. We go to the campfire. We clearly upped its defense. We're not going to risk it twice, but making it a 2/3. Delightful. Great Mantis, doing good work. Why is this interesting? Oh, this is very dangerous. So we got our turn 1 Mantis, that's guaranteed. And the Mantis did 4 damage. So we start at 4 health, we go to 8. And they had a Turkey Vulture that comes down with a mole, so the Turkey Vulture does 6, so we're down to 2 health. What can we do here? Now, the thing is, we can play our wolf, and our wolf is a 6/4. But where do we put the wolf? If we put it in column 2, then it kills their Turkey Vulture, but then the mole blocks its other attack so we don't heal, and the Flying Raven kills us. So we cannot put the wolf in column 2. Column 1 or 4 does nothing for us. It will only kill the mole, and then we'll die. What if we put it in column 3? Well, it kills the mole, and then it does 6 damage to them. We go to 8, and then they come back and do 10. We die. We also have a Mealworm, but the Mealworm can't block anything. We can only play the Mealworm after we've played the wolf. We can't keep our Mantis and put down the wolf because we don't have a second bone. So this is a mandatory scissors, I think. I think we have to scissors. Scissors and then wolf in column 2. Just so it can hit 2 columns next turn by going to column 3. Ugh. That's a... Yeah. Now, if your deck can survive the double striking Turkey Vulture start, you're doing very well, but this is one of the scariest starts you can get. Yeah. Yep, you can see I used a scissors. So I did play this fight correctly. I did screw that one up earlier when I wasted the hourglass. Though actually, here, if we had anything to do with the mycologist, we might want to go left than right to pick up the free the skinning knife. But no, we just go to the cave and get the sacrificial altar. That's going to be more useful. All right. Interesting options at the cave. That river otter is terrible, and river otters are terrible. We could get a double strike turkey vulture of our own, but unlike the game, we can't just play it for free, and we do not have the bone space. So we got to take the coyote. I mean, the bunny ability is great. It's pleasant, but our deck does not support bones costs. This is a dead card for us, or close to dead. But that's okay. It does not get in the way of our main strategy of Mantis Wolf. Okay. No, this is smart. All right. This, at first I was like, why would we put this crappy an ability on the Mantis? Like, surely there's something better. But first of all, I'm not entirely sure we do have something better. Like, the Adder's Death Touch, it's not clear it's better because the Mantis doesn't survive that long and often is sacrificed to our wolf. And if it lands on turn 1, there's nothing for it to kill. Because we're usually playing the Mantis turn 1, and Death Touch is a much more useful ability when the enemy's units have started coming down. So, but the reason this is good is this gives us a worker ant, and we have the totem pole to tutor with any insect. This is Mantis now creates a 1-drop insect. We can tutor more things. Yeah, this is smart, and I didn't immediately see it here. All right, our final choices. Let's probably go right. The trade in your pelts thing just doesn't change our deck, which is great. We get a chance for an item. If we go left, we get a chance for a really good card, and we get a campfire. But I think it's probably still just worth taking the item. Maybe not. Cave is good, campfire is good, and on the right we have nothing and something that might completely blank. No, it probably is going left. Just feels safer to me to take an item. But it probably is going left. Okay, I do go left, and that was the right decision, according to results at least. We're definitely taking the pronghorns here. Also, this is nice because I think we never sacrificial altered our previous pronghorns, and if we can combine them, that is a pretty beastly pronghorns. So, easy pick. And the campfire, we can just keep buffing our Mantis. It's the card we're guaranteed to have. Upgrading your 1-drop matters more than anything. The only reason we'd want to put the pluses on something else is if, like, our Direwolf pup, getting that from 1/1 to 2/1, if that's how we're beating the Grizzlies, is really important. Because at a 2/1, it can beat it can do 5 damage to a lane once it evolves. But for us, that's not important. That's not our plan for beating the Grizzlies, and so we just want to be upgrading the Mantis. Oh, interesting. When did we get that second Direwolf pup with the cool abilities? I don't know. Must have missed a cave. Actually, I mean, I mostly don't think this matters, but maybe it's the Direwolf pup? 2/2 with every time it eats it gets bigger can really go off. I wouldn't complain that much about any of them. Because the coyote is the deadest card here, so combining our 2 coyotes into 1 gets rid of a dead card in our deck. Not super important because we have a lot of tutoring, but still. Combining the pronghorns just makes that card really good. And the Direwolf kind of can go off the most, but they're the most, like, already usable cards. No idea. Could go any which way. Right now, I'd go Direwolf. I went pronghorns then. That seems great. Can't complain. All right, we're into phase 3. And I don't understand why I paused here. Because they're evolving, but the Mantis is a 2/3, so the Mantis can take out 2 of them. Yeah, I would just put the Mantis in column 2. I don't understand why I screenshot this. All right, Apparently, I thought that was a more interesting decision, or I just wanted to show the I don't know. And actually, we don't know what our Mantis is now. Because if we go back, we upgraded our Mantis, but it could be a 3-3 or a 2-5. And if we come to this screenshot, it doesn't say here. So, I don't know. Alright, which card are we taking? Very easy pick. As I said in the previous video, like 40% of the time we take the red heart because it is not a 0 or 1 cost card, and we're just going off with our Mantis. Alright, so clearly before the final boss, I went for items. So I guess this is what we're going for. I think it's the Black Goat. I think it's just nice to be able to get out one of the Dire Wolves or a new Super Pronghorn easier. Yeah, it's just got to be Black Goat. And another Black Goat. Alright, here's our final deck. Very good deck. Wouldn't be as good if we didn't have the tutoring. Our Mantis is 3-3. That's delightful. We love attack boosts. And then the Wolf is great, and the Pronghorn is good. Would have been nice on our final items if we got Bleach, then the Pronghorns could one-shot the final boss, which is always fun. Or the Adder could. We actually have multiple Death Touchers in our deck. Alright, and that was enough to win, and like pretty clearly is enough to win. We now have enough 2-cost things that we can start generating bones and can start playing our bone stuff a bit more. Yeah, this run clearly just went very well. I think the danger point was before I was able to get rid of the raccoon. And also that fight where I used the hourglass, I think was quite scary, but I don't know why I missed that I didn't need to use the hourglass. That was really foolish. But other than that, I think this looks like a good solid run, and that extends the win streak to 4, which is by far my longest win streak in this game. We'll see if we can keep it going.